Sup guys, I'm Kel, Red Zone Rogue, and welcome to another Force of Will strategy video. Keep in mind that this is not a deck tech, but is a strategy video with the intent of inspiring you guys to go out and make your own dank builds. But in case you don't care about any of that crap, there is a deck list in the description down below. So for today's video, we're going to be doing a Wanderer Scheherazade control strategy with good old Scheherazade, aka the Liberator of Wind. Scheherazade actually has a very special place in my heart in regards to Force of Will because she was the very first ruler that I basically played with. I started during the not Millennia of Ages, the Moon Priestess Returns, and I ended up buying 2 boxes of that with the intent of getting Scheherazade. I actually pulled 2 of them, which is pretty cool. But anyway, that was my first deck, and this is a pretty close counterpart to what I was playing back then. It's not the same, but it does use some of the same cards. It's a really cool deck. I like it quite a bit. I've not played this one a whole lot. I plan to do some more testing in the future when I get some free time, but let's go over the cards. Alright, so we have the ruler of the deck, Liberator of Wind, and I pulled out some magic stones because they're actually integral to what the deck does in terms of consistency and whatnot, so I'll go over those in a second, but let's first cover the Liberator herself. So basically what she does is she lets you stack the top of your magic stone deck, and so let's read it exactly. It says, at the beginning of the game, search your Magic Stone deck for a card, then shuffle the rest of your Magic Stone deck and put the card on top of it. And she has a J activation of 1 of any and 2 wind. And then her other side is Scheherazade, the teller of 1001 stories. Very, very cool art. I love this card quite a bit. I already went over it in the beginning, so I won't dwell on it too much. But when she enters, she has enter. You can search your main deck for any card and put it into your hand and then shuffle your main deck. So she kind of tutors for any card, which is really, really important, especially in regards to the sideboard, because we have a lot of singletons in the sideboard because you can fetch them out with Scheherazade. Also, she has an activation of you can rest her and draw 2 cards if you have no cards in your hand. Hopefully you'll always have some gas, but if you don't, then, no big deal. You can always rest her to get some gas. And I pulled out these magic stones because you can stack the top of your deck with magic stones, well, with 1 magic stone, and this is the one we're going to be doing every single time. Magic Stone of Moonshade, and we'll do that because it can produce a Moon Will, and it can also, pay 200 life to produce 1 will of any type that you would choose. And that's actually really, really good because we're playing 4 different colors in this deck. So this is really, really good fixing, and the Moon Will is actually relevant because, well, I'll show you a little bit later. The other cards the other stones are all dual stones, and they all have wind attribute stones. So another card that we will talk about later cares about wind stones, and it's really important that all the stones in the deck are wind stones, except for the one that we stack it with. Because this deck is a control deck, that means it is packed full of answers, but that does not also mean that we can't have a little bit of ramp in there. So I do run a full playset of Elvish Priest even, and Gretel. And Gretel is the reason we are running all wind magic stones, because what she does, she's a 200/200 for, 1 of any and 1 wind. If you've played Force of Will for, a decent amount of time, you definitely know who Gretel is. She was all over the place. Very, very good card. And she has an enter effect. You can reel the top card of your Magic Stone deck. If it is a wind stone, you can put it directly into your Magic Stone area. And so we will always hit a wind stone with her, and, good old Elvish Priest is just good old Elvish Priest. Good ramp stuff. So next up we have the removal package for the deck, not including a couple of Resonators that we'll go over later. This dude's a Resonator, so we'll cover him now, but he's not as important as the other ones. Anyway, alright, so the first card in our removal bunch that we're going to go over is Reflect at the beginning of time, and he also shifts into Refrain at the end of ages. So this is a fairly important card because it is our only board wipe in the deck. We usually play this dude up front. He is a 0/200. Only costs 1 wind, which is pretty good. He cannot be targeted by spells or abilities. You can pay 1 to put a magic counter on him, which is actually super relevant. And you can pay 3 and 2 light to flip him over to his other side anytime you could play a chant. And the other side is what is the most important part. It's a 700 for 3 and 2 light. That's not super relevant. What is relevant is you can pay 2 of any to put a magic counter on it. The magic counters from this side do stay when you shift it over to this side, and you can remove 4 magic counters from this card to destroy all Addition, Regalia, Resonators, and J-Rulers. It just blows everything up. It's actually really, really good. I run a couple of them in the deck. We almost always play this side first, build up your counters, and then flip it over when you need to. The next 3 removal spells are more traditional removal spells in a certain sense. Space-Time Anomaly is all over the place these days. You can give a dude -500, -500. You get to draw a card. It has quick cast basically, and it has Revenant. So all that stuff really, really good. Lots of good value. Draws a card, get to play it twice. Good stuff there. The Stories Told in 1001 Nights is a card unique to Scheherazade because, you know, without Scheherazade it's not that great. Basically what it is, it's a chant instant, so it has quick cast. It costs 3 wind, and what it does is you can put target Resonator on top of his owner's main deck. We're not going to be doing that. If your ruler is Liberator, Wind, or Scheherazade, remove it from the game, then search his controller's main deck, graveyard, and hand for all cards with the same name and remove them from the game instead. Then that player shuffles his or her main deck. So basically, you kill a dude and every other copy that player owns of that dude. It's really, really good. I ran 3 of these in the deck. I don't see why you wouldn't if you're playing Scheherazade. Really good card. And last but certainly not least is the Sign to the Future, and this card's actually a little bit innocuous. It's pretty good. It's a spell chant standby. It costs 1 of any and 1 light, and the trigger for it is that your opponent controls 3 or more Resonators than you. And then you can remove 2 target Resonators from the game. And this is actually really, really good against Grim and other like swarm type aggro decks in Wanderer. It is actually also really important to know that this is a chant standby because we can search it up with another card in the deck. And we will go over that a little bit later. Let's go over our counters next. Alright, so these are the counters of the deck. And by counters, I mean cards that cancel what your opponent is doing as they are playing their cards. So we run 4 different counters of the deck, and we basically play a lot of them. It's why, one of the many reasons why Wind is a very, very powerful attribute in Force of Will. So the first one I run is Wall of Wind. You can cancel target spell unless its controller pays 1. Just a really good, cheap, inefficient spell. You can, get them on turn, 1 or 2. It's really, really good. The next one we run is probably the best one in the deck, and one of the reasons why Moonwill is relevant. It's called the Seal of Wind and Light. Let's say what the card is before we actually talk about it. It costs 1 light and 1 wind, and you just straight up cancel target spell. And if you do an Awakening of 1 moon, players cannot chase to this card. So yeah, I run a full playset of these. It's a very, very powerful card. Not much else to say about that. We also run a couple Absolute Cake Zones. This was all over the place in early Force of Will days. I guess it's still fairly early right now. But basically what it does, it costs 1 and 1 wind, and you can cancel target normal spell, so basically any non-Resonator spell. If you control Hansel or Gretel, you get a draw card. That's pretty good. We run 4 Gretels in the deck, so yeah, not too bad. And then last but certainly not least, I run 3 Zeke's the Ancient Magic. And it's got this giant wall of text down here. You can do basically one of up to 4 things. You can make a Resonator not be... You can make it so a Resonator cannot be targeted by spells or abilities until end of turn. You can cancel target Resonator spell. It says summon spell here, but it means a Resonator spell. You can give all your Resonators +200/+200 until end of turn, or you can make a player shuffle all the magic stones in their graveyard into their deck, and then shuffle all the other cards from their graveyard into their main deck. It's very versatile. A lot of the time you'll just be using it to, cancel a Resonator spell, but, like I said, it's got a lot of versatility in it as well. And finally, we come up to what I like to think of as the finishers of the deck. They're not exactly finishers in the sense that they're going to kill your opponent on the spot, but they do a pretty good job of it in different ways. So let's talk about the least obvious of them first. So here we have the Necronomicon. Basically what this card does is it lets you play cards from your graveyard as if they were in your hand. So let's go over it entirely. It just says you may play cards from your graveyard. If a card would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, remove from the game instead. At the end of your turn, discard your hand. So this is a card, also it costs 3 darkness, and it is an addition field relic. So basically, what you do with this is, at the end of like a long, grindy match, you play this so you can just start using cards from your graveyard that you need to use. So you have basically you can play your deck twice. I only run 1 copy of this in the deck because you can just search it up with Scheherazade, and multiple copies are redundant. So yeah, Necronomicon is a very good card and saw a lot of play back in the day, and should see a decent amount of play in Wanderer as well. Next up, we have the classic Mephistopheles, the Abyssal Tyrant. This dude was a house back in the day. He's a 1500 for 2 and 2 darkness. He has flying, target attack, and when this card becomes the target of spells or abilities your opponent controls, he or she loses 500 life. But at the end of your turn, you have to banish another Resonator. He just can win the game on his own if left unchecked. He is like the main finisher of the deck. If you have nothing else, if you've locked the board down, you can just start smashing in for 1500 every single turn, counter everything they got, blow up all their dudes. I only run 2 of them because we don't really need all that more. But yeah, Mephistopheles even is dank. And finally, I run the Riza Melder Stealth combo. These cards are seen all the time in New Frontiers, and they're pretty good in Wanderer as well. If you don't know what they do, I guess we can go over them really quickly. So we have Riza, First of the Dead. She costs 2 and 2 darkness. Both of them have stealth, by the way. And what they do, stealth, just 800, 800. That's pretty good, I guess. If you control 4 or more magic stones, you control a darkness magic stone and no resonators. While this card is in your chant standby area, you can do that. That's the trigger. And then when it enters your field, you may pay 1,000 life. If you do, search your main deck for a card and put it into your chant standby area face down, then shuffle your main deck. You can actually get Sign to the Future with Riza as well as Melder. So there's some versatility in that in case you need to blow up 2 dudes. Or you can get good old Melder, who is known for blowing up 1 dude. We can cover him really quick. He costs 2 of any and 3 darkness. He's a 1,000, 1,000. And his trigger is that, there we go. You can control a darkness magic stone and your life is 2,000 or less. And then when he enters the field, target resonator gains -400 for each resonator with stealth you control. So if you play him off of Riza here, then you can give a dude -800 and -800, and then you have 2 big bodies that you can smash with. So pretty good stuff. Pretty common these days, so it's not that big of a deal. And finally, we have the sideboard of the deck. Here we go, all 15 cards. These cards, tend to focus in on specific strategies or augment or alter what we're doing right here. So let's go over a couple of the cards. So first of all, I run a couple or several Glimpse of Kaguya's. This lets you cancel target activate ability. Nine-tailed fox, all that good stuff, and you get a draw card. It's a pretty good card. It totally hoses over Nine-tailed fox and a couple other type things in Wanderer. Next we have Shackles of Ice, and you would probably run this against Vlad or maybe Mikage if you ever see it in Wanderer, but mostly against Vlad. This totally just screws over Vlad. Very, very good card, and yeah, not much else to say. So next up I have Savior of Splendor and Down the Drain, and these are just single cost cards that destroy certain resonators of a type. So this one removes target darkness resonator from the game. This is chant instant. And this one blows up a fire resonator. Destroy target fire resonator, and is also an instant. So yeah, you use these when applicable. I also run a singleton black moonbeam against Bahamut or, I don't know, Lumia or any other thing that you need to blow up. Once again, you only need one of certain cards because you can fetch it out with Scheherazade, so yeah, that's good. Same is true with Barrier of Shadows. I might need to run more of these, but I actually don't find myself sideboarding this too often. I don't know a whole lot of people who play super, super heavy Regalia decks, but I know they're out there, and, this does a good job of hosing them over. I also run a Vlad in the sideboard, just in case I need to swap over to a Vlad strategy control type build. It still functions pretty well using Vlad. Not the most optimal Vlad build, but you can do it in case you need to, in case your opponent's strategy is just stomping you into the ground and you need to try something different. Vlad is a good alternative. And finally, I run the Drossel, Alice, and Excalibur bunch, I guess you can call them. I'll swap out my ruler for Drossel and swap in Alice and Excalibur against like really, really aggressive burn decks that I can't, fight against. And mostly it's just burn decks and maybe like light aggro if you come across that. Pretty good against that type of stuff. Alice is weak to like direct removal, but other than that, like just burn and stuff, this does a really, really good job of that. So yeah. Alright guys, so that was my Liberator of Wind, Scheherazade, the Teller of 1001 Stories, Wanderer control deck. I hope you guys liked the video. I apologize if I missed something. Wanderer is a pretty large and complex format, and it's only going to get larger and more complex, so I might have missed something. Like I said, I don't have a huge amount of experience with this deck. I just started playing with it, but I think it's a really cool deck, and I love getting back into playing Scheherazade. I would love to see an updated Scheherazade, one with like Energize or something. That would be fucking sweet. But I digress. If you guys like the video, then maybe leave a like, maybe even subscribe. Every little bit helps, and I appreciate it oh so very much. Regardless of what you guys do, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you guys next time.